Hello and welcome to the Ranching Returns podcast, where we believe that when done right, your return on ranching can be far more than just extreme profitability, but a return to your land resource as well as a priceless lifestyle. Hey there, and welcome back to the Ranching Returns podcast, sponsored by Faro Cattle Company. Last chance here to make sure you get the bull workdays on your calendar. Colorado bull workdays are August 18th and 19th. Nebraska is August 24th. Montana is August 27th. Canada, our first Canada sale, is August 31st. And the Alabama sale bulls, which are being developed in Texas, the workdays are September 2nd. So if you're interested in that, you can check out farocattle.com, RSVP. You're welcome to attend. In fact, we encourage it. It gives you a chance to see these bulls in person, see how Kit Faro and the Faro Cattle Company team evaluates the bulls. A lot of value at these events. All right. Today's episode is going to be a really fun one. It's with Dr. Rebekah Hartfield, and she is just crushing it down in Oklahoma. They started, her and her husband started on a 40-acre rundown piece of real estate, a farm building site, which they improved through sweat equity and investment, and built quite a bit of equity in it and sold it, and have turned that equity over the years into what now is 3 different veterinary clinics that she owns, operates, and practices within, as well as are building a ranch business of their own as well. So really cool. We talk a lot about entrepreneurship, the challenges that come with running your own businesses, and the benefits that come from it too, the freedom that comes from it. The sort of untapped scaling potential, untapped income potential that come with entrepreneurship, and all of the benefits that come with it. I think it's a really just great conversation. Hope that you enjoy it as much as I did. With that, we will dive into this conversation with Dr. Rebekah Hartfield. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. We've got Dr. Rebekah Hartfield from Oklahoma. Is that right?
From Oklahoma.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation because you've got I guess a couple things I'm passionate about, obviously ranching, but then entrepreneurship. I've often thought about doing another podcast because I feel like half of my passion about all this is like really the business and mindset and entrepreneurial spirit of a lot of the people I work or talk to and stuff. But I feel like mostly on this podcast, we dive into a lot of the ranching stuff. So you will be an awesome guest to kind of dive into a little bit of both. Before we get started, diving into too much of the history or something, maybe you can give a bit of an overview as to all of the stuff that you've got going on today. And then I'd love to dive kind of back into the history and kind of work our way up to the present.
Absolutely. So currently right now, I probably have too many things going on, but the true spirit of being an entrepreneur, I feel like you kind of have to have a lot of irons in the fire, if you will. And so Right now we have 3 veterinary clinics. 2 of those are mixed animal practices in rural Oklahoma. And then we have an urgent care veterinary clinic that still is pretty mixed animal, but it's in a rural area. So we still service a lot of dogs, cat, horses, not as many cattle at this one. We don't have the facilities for that just yet, but
sure.
Do see some, sheep, goats, pigs, things like that at that one. But that one's only open on the weekends. So we have 3 veterinary clinics. And then me and my husband also raise show horses. We've got ranch versatility horses that we have. We have a pretty strong breeding program here. Along with cattle, we raise registered Charolais cows. And so really getting into that. My husband dabbles in a lot of different things with cattle, horses. And then I write children's books about veterinary medicine. And that's probably been one of my biggest passions for quite a while, is just encouraging kids to learn about veterinary medicine, tools we use at the clinic, and sharing that through children's books and going into these schools and introducing them to that. I also serve as the president of on the Oklahoma Veterinary Board. And so that's been a really big honor to serve on for the last 6 years. It's a position appointed by the governor. And so it's really been an honor for me to be on that and serve Oklahoma in that way. And there's a few other little things that I do, but that's the biggest thing that I have going on right now, and of raising my 6-year-old little cowboy. So
Fun. That's awesome. I'm just curious on that veterinary board position. What all does that entail? I imagine right now are you like the person figuring out state plans for this whole screwworm deal and trying to like deal with that, or what kind of all goes into that role?
thankfully, no, that
Okay.
falls under the state veterinarian. And
Okay.
so our state veterinarian here is Dr. Rod Hall, and he is
Sure.
leading the pack with that here in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry too much with that, just being aware of what's going on.
Right.
But that role really is just helping. We're an advocate for the veterinarians. We help with rules and regulations, making sure that veterinarians are following the rules and the laws. And so if a veterinarian messes up or, there's a complaint against them, then they
Sure.
do come to, it goes before us and
I see.
we help to handle that. So
Okay.
but we're an advocate for the people, but also for the veterinarians. We're here to help all of them and make sure that rules are being followed correctly.
Sure. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. So then I guess diving back into the history, did you grow up in agriculture, ranching, veterinary medicine? How did you kind of find yourself where you're at?
So that is kind of a long story, but I did grow up in rural ag community. My grandpa, I'm originally from Texas, and so
Okay.
my grandpa had us a ranch down there in Texas and raised Charolais cattle for years. And so
Mhm.
I homeschooled and I loved riding horses. My grandma got me into riding horses, showed in 4-H and was involved in FFA and horse judging, all through junior high and high school. But because I homeschooled most of my junior high, years, my grandpa would pick me up in the mornings. I'd go check oil wells with him, go check cattle, and then I'd finally get to go to, their house and ride horses and then do
Mhm.
schoolwork at some point during that time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And that was kind of my daily routine, just hanging out with my grandpa, grandma, working around their ranch. And so that's where I really got exposed to it. But to
Mhm.
be honest, I didn't really want to go to college. I thought that that was way too much school for me. I wanted to train horses, maybe do some photography. I kind of dabbled in that a little bit. And then fast forward to meeting my husband back in 2008, and I worked for a veterinarian at the time. I needed a second job and loved working there and just kind of fell in love with it. And my husband
Mhm.
was like,
Mhm.
I really think you need to pursue being a veterinarian. And
Yeah.
so I was in college for a total of 11 years by the time that
Wow.
I know. For someone
Yeah.
who didn't want to go to school at all, that is
Yeah.
where 11 years later. So
Yeah.
I have an associate's degree, I have a bachelor's, and I have a doctorate in veterinary medicine now, but
Okay.
I
Okay.
wouldn't change anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's incredible. I did 3 years of college, and that was enough for me. I was ready to be done. Just I can't sit still that long, but it. I mean, some things you can't be taught real quickly anyway. So that's awesome.
Yep.
So your husband actually encouraged you to do it. It wasn't like something you always dreamed about. It feels like at least a lot of the vets I know, it's something they always wanted to do, and it was later kind of encouraged or kind of yeah.
It is, and I see that a lot, especially with like my children's books, is that all these little
Hmm.
girls just grow up wanting to be a veterinarian. And
Yeah.
that really was, I don't know. I just never even thought about it, I
Right.
guess. Loved riding horses, knew I always wanted to be in agriculture doing something.
Hmm.
But as far as going to vet school, I really didn't even have that dream. And so
Yeah.
when I decided, when I worked for a veterinarian, my mentor for years, Dr. Hal Reese in Texas. And, I don't even remember anyone there really saying, hey, you need to go to vet school. But it was really just like, as I started working there and just loving the
Mm-hmm.
practice, loving all of that. And I do always like to tell this story. So I guess if you were to pinpoint a moment in my life where I was like, okay, I want to be a boss and I want to be a veterinarian. It was one day I was sweeping and cleaning the vet clinic, and someone that was working with me that day, one of the assistants, she was over there on her phone, not working. And I just, in that moment when I was sweeping, I was like, you know what? I want to be her boss one day. And that is literally the moment I decided and
Mm.
went home and told my husband, I think I'm going to pursue this veterinarian thing. Not
Okay.
only am I going to be a veterinarian, but I want to be my own boss and I want to be able
Yeah.
to be in a leadership position.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because as you were saying that, my first thought was, as you were saying, it was like it was the I want to be the boss. It was more of from the entrepreneurial spirit in a field that you were
Yes,
passionate about. That sounds like that was very much the driving factor anyway.
very much so.
That's super cool. Yeah. No, that entrepreneurial kind of mindset, it does seem like some people are just kind of born with that. And it seems like you had that for sure. And I love the books as you were talking about that. I'm like, I definitely need to get that for I've got a 3-year-old daughter who, I don't know, she's really young, obviously still, but I got this feeling that I could totally see her being a vet. She seems to just love the cows and our cats and our animals and stuff. So I'm going to have to check those out for sure.
She would. My little boy is 6 now, but he has been reading them. You know, he has them memorized for the
Yeah.
last several years, and so
Yeah.
they do enjoy them. Several of my friends will be like, "Oh yes, we read these books every single night." And I'm like, "I'm sorry,"
Yeah. Well,
but
I
they're
mean,
learning a lot.
absolutely. That's like that. Well, that seems to, first of all, be the way that the kids are. Like we've got a few as well, and they pick a book and you read it every day, all the time, every night, and it's like, can we just pick another one? But for the longest time, the favorite of ours was Farming Strong All Year Long. I was like, at least I can get behind this instead of some random
Yes,
story about something. So good topic books
love it.
are interesting to me. But anyway, so you decided to go, well, and actually before you went to college, you were already married, and were you already ranching?
So I was taking some just classes when I met my husband. I was taking some classes and just gonna, oh, I'll just get my associate's degree, and then just by working at the vet clinic and just by, you know, being with my husband because we got married a year later. That's when we just kind of decided as a, you know, both that we were going to just do this thing. So we actually we didn't really have cattle. Well, we didn't have anything.
Sure. Sure.
My husband worked on a ranch in Texas, the Wagner Ranch,
Oh, fair. Yeah.
where
Yeah.
Highbrow Cat was at some point. So he worked there for about a year while I was taking some classes that I needed to start working towards going to vet school. So we lived on that ranch for about a year and he trained 2-year-olds there. And then we just decided to go all in. And so I got accepted into Texas A&M University. So we moved there the next year, rented a place for a couple of years while I was going to school at A&M, and my husband still worked for a cutting horse a trainer there for a little while, but I couldn't work at the same time going to school, trying to keep up with classes and working was just not gonna cut it. So he ended up going back into the oil field for a little while so that I didn't have to work while taking like biochemistry, organic chemistry,
Right.
physics, all the things that
Yeah.
I'm terrible at. And so I ended up not getting into veterinary school at Texas A&M, but I did get into school at Oklahoma State. And so we ended up moving again to Oklahoma. And so once we moved to Oklahoma, we were able to find this amazing rundown piece of property. It was 40 acres and it like grass grown up past the door to past the windows. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And I guess
Fixer
the
upper ranch
craziest,
kind of a thing.
very much
Yeah.
so a fixer-upper.
Love it.
This was, so we had called a realtor and they couldn't meet us there the day that we were in Oklahoma. So we just were like looking through the windows and the inside we could tell was really bad, but the barn was just awesome. It was just this huge barn. I don't remember how big it was, but it was just this really great barn. So we were like, we have to have this place. And it was about 45 minutes from the school, so it was doable. We just didn't want to rent again. We really wanted to put down some roots and buy something. And so we ended up putting an offer in on this property without even going in the house. And we got it for a steal.
Nice.
And so while I was in vet school, my husband was working, we just slowly invested into that property and basically made this just super great horse facilities there. So we added onto the barn, built 2 arenas, added on just a lot of stuff, remodeled the house. And so that initial investment is actually what led us to pay cash for our next home when we ended up moving to Holdenville to purchase our first clinic. So that was a great investment opportunity for sure.
That's so cool. So when you were doing it, what was were you thinking through like, we're going to build a business, a horse business? I mean, what was it kind of just building the property of your dreams, or did you have, a perspective or a plan within that property to, build a business on it?
I don't think we had a plan at all, actually.
Sure. Yeah. Fair.
When we were there and rebuilding, we loved that property so much. My husband has always had just a passion for horses, which is kind of funny because before I met him, he was football star at Texas Tech. He actually initially got drafted into to the Ravens, let go, and then to the Redskins. So he didn't get to stay long, but at least, he did make it a certain,
That's
not
incredible.
A lot of people can say that.
Yeah, that's like, okay, that helps put the perspective on his talent level, because clearly that's phenomenal. Wow.
Yeah. So, and then, and he played arena football for a little while.
Really?
And so that was before I met him, but
Mm-hmm.
so it's but he's always just had this like passion for horses and for cattle and to be a cowboy. So you would have no idea meeting him now, like that he even did any of that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, he just had a passion for it, and his goal was to eventually stay home and be able to train horses. And so the oil field did give us, the financial means to do that, which was great. The bad part was, of course, he was gone 2 weeks, home 2 weeks. But when he was home, he was working on the property and working on, getting our breeding, program started with our horses.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've just kind of built from that. And we didn't really think we would leave that property, but, God had other plans when we, decided to leave. And so, but that property definitely opened a lot of doors for us.
That's awesome. So you said that kind of led for the ability to buy your next place for cash and open some doors. Was that through the equity built then? Or, talk a little bit about that, and what was the next place?
Yeah. So when we moved there, went to school and then graduated, and then we stayed there another probably, I think it was 2.5, 3 years. And while my first job out of that school was at another rural mixed animal practice, did super well there, loved it, but just didn't see the potential for me to actually own that business in the near future.
Yeah.
And so knew I needed to do something else. And so that's when I got an email actually from the state veterinarian, just a mass email. Hey, this vet clinic's for sale. And I showed my husband and I was like, what do you think? I think we should go look at it. Yeah. And I do have a lot of crazy ideas. And I think my husband does too, actually. But he says it's mostly me. We decided to go look at it, and we did. And we just felt like it was a great opportunity, and the price was right for us to be able to purchase that clinic. And really, I just could see the growth and the need that community needed for a veterinarian, especially a mixed animal veterinarian.
Sure.
And so we decided to go ahead and purchase that clinic. And because of the equity that we had built in that property, I can't remember how much it was, but it was quite a bit. We tripled our money on that property.
Wow, that's incredible.
And so we actually purchased another home in Holdenville where the clinic was before we sold the other property, because we hadn't sold it yet. And God brought the right person at the right time, because it sold and we were able to, pay off that note and then actually reinvest in that property. And we again flipped that place, and now we're where we're at now.
Yeah.
So it does help that my husband is very handy, and we have good friends in our corner that are very handy as well, that allow us to do this.
To remain in business and leave a legacy for the next generation, today's rancher and farmer must not only be efficient, but strive to be sustainable by preserving our natural resources. Healthy soil is the foundation of every strong operation, and education is the key to learning about new innovative ways, not only to maintain, but to continue to build that healthy foundation. At the Bottom Line Conference in Lakin, Kansas, we're going to dig into the essentials, like building organic matter, water infiltration, retention, and the variables that drive long-term productivity and sustainability. You're going to hear from past podcast guests Grant Harder and Kit Farrow, as they share real-world strategies for building resilient soils and profitable herds. And this year, we're proud to present nationally recognized speaker Jolene Brown. She's going to be delivering a very powerful guidance on family business transition planning, so be sure and bring your business partners and the entire family. Strong soil, strong legacy. Your bottom line starts right here in Lakin, Kansas. The dates are Thursday, August 20th and Friday, August 21st at the Kearney County Fairgrounds on the west side of Lakin, just south of Highway 50. Now, for all the details, go to bottomlineconference.org.
Yeah, no, that skill set is so valuable. Having just like basic mechanics and not contractor, but like construction skill set, man. I wish I had more of that because it's, well, especially now when you start just having little things need done and you get a quote from a builder, it's wild what some of this stuff costs. So amazingly valuable skill.
It's wild how much that stuff costs, but it's also wild how much things take to actually get done. So if you don't have like people like we do. So for example, when we purchased our clinic in Holdenville, our first clinic, it was a complete gut. I mean, it was bad. Like we gutted the entire clinic. And so from start to finish, we were shut down for like, I think it was 3 weeks. We'd worked our butts off because I was like, the longer this is closed, like
no money's coming in.
Like no money is coming in. Like we have to be open. And so having Preston and he's a contractor, he builds, but he always does all the projects with us. His name's Tony McFarland, and he's been a huge component of everything that we've done with remodeling our homes and remodeling all 3 of our clinics. And so, but being able to get it done so fast, I hear about other places or other veterinarians that actually have practices that they purchased and are remodeling, and they're like out for like 6 months. I was like, how are you paying bills? Like, I got to get this done. We're on a timeline.
Yeah, absolutely. No, there's true. So I'm somewhat in the real estate business. We own some rental properties and stuff too. And there's so much truth to, like, we had a property kind of get trashed by a tenant, and I could have hired somebody to go in there for probably $500 to clean all this out, clean it up, make it nice, whatever the cost would have been. Instead, because we're farmers, I was really busy, and it took me like over 2 months to do it myself, just because I didn't have time to get it all done and get some stuff. That's 2 months of rent I lost that would have been, so it feels cheap out of pocket, but then lost opportunity cost. So yeah, no, you're right. It does sometimes pay. It seems expensive to write the check, but it pays versus the alternative of trying to do it yourself over the course of however long it takes.
For sure.
No, that makes sense. So you'll have to tell me if this doesn't make sense to do, because I feel like there's 2 routes. I'm curious on your ranch business and your land acquisition and stuff. And I'm really curious on this, the vet stuff. So I'm kind of thinking maybe just dive down this vet path of going from 1 to 3 vet clinics, and we'll see where it goes. And if there's stuff overlaps, let me know. So, but anyway, you bought this first vet clinic, which it just showed up in an email, which is awesome. And you were the only or the first person to get back to him. I'm curious, when an opportunity like that comes up, what does that conversation look like? I mean, are you evaluating the business numbers, trying to decide if this is a good investment? How do you determine if it's worth doing? And then I guess we'll get into later, how do you establish, you're stepping into the place of somebody else and you have to build these relationships that have been probably carried by someone for decades. I guess, but starting with, this business, how do you look at its value and determine if it's worth doing and whatnot?
So the first clinic, I had no clue at all what I was doing. This is, again, where you have to have people in your corner to like help guide you on like what to do. And so, and I'm kind of in a position now where I have other veterinarians reach out to me and they're like, hey, I want to purchase this clinic. What should I do? I'm like, okay, listen, start here. I think the most important thing was to have a bank and support of a bank, and not just any bank, but a banker that also knows about veterinary clinics and how to purchase them. What are the values at? So number one, I had a friend that had purchased a clinic. And so I reached out to him and I was like, hey, where do I get started? I know I want to buy this clinic. It's by owner. I want to make an offer. And he said, well, the first thing you need to do is reach out to this bank. And it was First National Bank. I used a bank out of Arkansas. They specifically work with veterinarians to purchase clinics.
Okay.
Super great.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to them and was partnered with actually a banker that was a veterinarian and had stepped away from being a veterinarian for a little while. So he played a key role in just like, I had a million questions and he was just able to help me kind of get through that and actually be able to do evaluation on the clinic. What is it worth? And then kind of go from there.
Yeah.
So now with my second clinic, I did a lot of research on, because we had moved again to another location.
Okay.
And so this clinic was actually an hour and a half away from my first clinic. And there was just, I could see, I wanted to do something up here on the weekends because I was working there during the week, but I needed some more cash flow. We moved to a bigger place, had a few more bills. And so I was like, what can I do? So I decided to open an urgent care on the weekends. So this clinic in particular, we just started out with a building and we went in there and just made it into a vet clinic. And so that was totally different from Holdenville though, because Holdenville was an established business that had, I wouldn't say they were super busy. Like I had to go in and work hard to get more clients and get them to trust me.
Yeah.
The veterinarian that had been at Holdenville previously had only been there about 5 years. So it wasn't as hard as converting them over as like someone that's been there like 30 years, you know?
Yeah.
Well, this is how so-and-so's done it for 50 years.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Holdenville definitely took some time to establish that trust and that care. But then at this other clinic with my urgent care, people don't even know you're there. And so like, how do you get people to know you're there? And then again, to trust you in, 30 minutes with their urgent case. And so, and then my third practice, I did actually just purchase in January. And this was a very established clinic.
Sure.
He had been there, I think 30 years, if not more. And so I'm still working on building trust and hey, we do things a little bit differently. We do make sure that, we follow all the rules. I'm on the veterinary board.
Yeah.
We're not going to do everything as old school.
Yes.
I try to be a good example. So that's each clinic purchase has kind of been different, but it all starts with, finances, the bank, and kind of getting that relationship there.
Yeah. So in the pre-existing ones, you're buying a book of business, you're buying some real estate perhaps with that, like equipment, infrastructure. Are you taking on like employees that they had? And like, is that all kind of happening when you're doing that then?
Yes. So I purchased with my first one and my third one, we actually purchased the real estate and purchased the business along with that. And then employees didn't stay at my first one. So then I had to go out and get employees. And then my third practice that I opened, I did get to retain an employee and she is still on board with me. Thank goodness.
Cool. Yeah.
Which has been super nice. I kind of worried about that a little bit at first, but what's so nice is that people that have been using them for a long time, she's been there 6 years, they trust her. And so she's like really great to just bring that, be like, hey, Dr. Hartfield, she is here for you guys. You can trust her, and so she helps to establish that trust as well. So that's been really nice.
So this might be a dumb question, but how are you managing 3 vet clinics at once? I mean, like, are you only a manager or are you actually doing practicing within these yourself?
No, I practice 5 days a week.
Okay.
So let me just tell you my schedule.
Yes. Yeah. That would help me.
That might be easier.
It'll make me feel grateful that we found some time to even do this at all. So thank you.
So Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, I work at my new location.
Sure.
As a full-time veterinarian. Now, on those days in between appointments, I am doing business stuff. So I'm doing payroll, I'm doing ordering, I'm doing hiring employees, I'm doing interviews. I try to do that all between things in my downtime. I usually don't take a lunch. I eat lunch at the clinic.
Sure.
I love using that hour to really make sure I get everything done for all 3 clinics. So I'm at that location those days. And then on Wednesdays, I have a relief veterinarian that comes in and works at the third location. And I go to my first location, which is in
Okay.
Holdenville.
Yeah.
And basically, I see appointments there, but I'm mainly there to just make sure everything's going okay, catch up on any bills, talk with my office manager,
Mm-hmm.
make sure and check in with my veterinarian there because I do have a
Okay.
full-time veterinarian that works
Sure.
for me at that clinic.
Gotcha.
And I don't stay there all day, but there are certain clients that specifically, want to see me. And so we set those up for those days, or I do farm calls on those days. I'm not as busy as a
Mm-hmm.
veterinarian on Wednesdays in Holdenville, but it's definitely more of a business day, but just to reconnect with my staff and make sure I'm checking in once a week with them. And then
Right.
my urgent care, that one I work at
Yeah.
every other weekend. So
Okay.
because
Okay.
I have my full-time veterinarian that works in Holdenville. She works there once a month. And then my
Mm-hmm.
relief vet that works Wednesdays for me, she works once a month.
Gotcha.
So it kind of works out great.
Okay.
We can do that.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, that
It's a
is
little
a
confusing.
complicated schedule. Yeah. If you, it's nice that you have that structure, and it's like, man, I'm sure when you have somebody who wants to go on a 3-week vacation, that maybe gets a little complex for you or something. But
It does, actually, it does. But I really have a great team and I have a great staff. And so we
Yeah.
kind of just make it work.
Yeah.
When I want to go on vacation, it gets a little difficult, but
Yeah, I bet.
next week I'm actually going on vacation.
Okay.
I don't get to go on one super often, but I decided to just shut the clinic down for a week because
Okay.
a bunch of people weren't off. So I was like, we'll just be
Yeah.
closed. So when you're the boss, you can make
Yeah.
those decisions.
That's right. No, that's a good way to do it. So I'm curious now, like looking back at it now, being the boss of these people and managing all the businesses, are you glad you went that route of, owning and managing as opposed to just working as a vet for a veterinarian or for a clinic somewhere? Or?
I am. There's definitely days that I get frustrated. A few weeks ago, I
Yeah.
lost quite a few staff members, and that part of it is really frustrating. You try to do everything you can
Mm-hmm.
for staff, and sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes people just want to quit.
Yeah.
The managing of the staff is definitely the hardest part,
Right.
but being my own boss is way better,
Yeah.
in my opinion, than working. And it's given me so many opportunities to do other things, like grow our horse program, grow our cattle, just investment opportunities that we've had because of what the clinics have been able to do for us financially.
Yeah.
Is just I couldn't have done all this without by staying as an associate.
Right. And I guess maybe talk a little bit more about that, because I think that's huge. Like when you take on risk, when you take on challenges, headaches, problems, that's the upside usually is a financial upside. And I mean, I guess if there's anything more to say on that anyway, I think that's an important realization for people, though, that it's an unlock to people who think they're capped purely by their time. I can work 2,000 hours a year, 3,000 hours a year, whatever it is, and my salary or my dollar rate times my hours I can work is your limitation. But you've kind of unlocked this, upper no ceiling kind of a thing through your mindset and what you're doing.
I agree. Mindset is super important. You have to be willing to take on that risk. I think a lot of people are scared to take on that risk. They want the stability of a paycheck every single week. They want, or, however often they get paid.
Right.
And it is a huge risk. But I think the risk, just the things that I've been able to do because of my clinic, even just one clinic, I was able to do so much more financially, purchase properties, have rental properties, expand the business. Those things, you just can't have it as an associate. I know that I have headaches every day, but you know what? I see associates having headaches every day too, because they're so frustrated that they can't make changes because they work for a corporate clinic and this is how we're doing it. And so I love being able to make the protocols, but I try to run all my clinics where if you have ideas or ways that we can be more efficient or ways that we can serve people better, I want to hear those ideas and I want to, make our clinics better. And so coming to me with ideas and ways to change things, I'm always about that. But I really encourage there is a shortage of veterinarians, not just in Oklahoma, but really across the nation, especially in rural mixed animal settings. There's just no one that wants to go work large animal.
Right.
I mean, there are a few, but few and far between. And so they're all just really going towards like working for corporate companies. And, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But I just don't see, and I haven't seen where those associates ever get out of just the financial rut that they're in. I mean, the debt ratio for vet school is ridiculous now. And so this opportunity allows me to get out of that debt, apply for different grants because I'm working in these rural communities. And so I can pay off those student loans so much faster. I don't know if that answered your question, but
No, it does. I tend to agree with everything you said. I think life is pretty much all choices and trade-offs. You get to kind of choose your heart. And, a lot of people say they don't go into, you don't want to get into farming or don't want to get into business because of all of the headaches, the hardships, the challenges. It's harder to maybe get away sometimes and different things. But the alternative is go work for somebody. And yes, you might have the consistency, you might have the vacation time and things, but you're limited by, again, your hours and your income and stuff. So it's choose your heart. It's kind of, everybody gets to kind of trade, but it really was, for myself anyway, an unlock to realize that, you can make money more than you can value you can be worth more than your time, or you can generate income in other ways than just your labor times your rate, your hourly wage and stuff. And that's, I don't know, I think that's huge.
Well, and one thing that I know someone had asked me a few weeks ago, they were like, well, and I talked to my husband about it. And they had asked me, well, what if you were to lose everything? And me and him were just talking and we both were like, well, we'd do it again. That's the mindset that we have though. We're hard workers. Right. And if we lost everything and the only job I could get was at McDonald's or at Sonic, I'd go work there. But because of my mindset and our work ethic, that I may start as an employee there, but then in 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going to be like manager. And then in 2 to 3 months, like I'm owning it.
Yes.
And then, and you know what I mean? Like it's all about what you choose to do. Again, choose your heart. And, if you want to stay right there working and just, get a paycheck, then you can do that. But for me, that doesn't satisfy me. Like I want to lead, grow, and every day I'm thinking, okay, is there another clinic I could buy? Well, now I need to find another veterinarian to work for me. Yeah. Like, how do we get those? Right. So it's just, some people have that mindset and people don't. And I definitely do. Yeah. And there is one other thing. People always ask me, I told you my schedule and everything I'm involved in. And they're always like, well, how do you, do you have any family time? Are you ever at home? And my answer to that is yes. Because I'm my own boss, I do set that schedule and I am very strict about when I leave the clinic. And that's why I work through lunch. So I don't have to bring anything home. When I get home, I might be checking mares for my husband, but I'm also with my husband and with my son. And we're doing things together as a family. We're doing things on the weekend as a family. We're riding horses together, checking cattle. So, and as my own boss, my son got to come with me to work all the time. So he's just been around it, exposed to it. He understands that we work really hard to have what we have, but he also I don't feel like we've really missed out on any big moments because I'm at work and had to miss something that he did.
Yeah.
Because I can make the choice to be there for him or be home.
So for years, I've literally been using spreadsheets to do all of the accounting for my farm, my personal, and my real estate businesses. And starting actually in 2025, I switched everything over to Ambrook, my personal finances, farm business finances, and my real estate portfolio. And in the few months that I've been using it, I absolutely love it. It has made life so much easier. And honestly, it's something that I look forward to at this point. Tagging and categorizing expenses is super easy by setting up automations for any regular expenses that come in that can automatically be categorized, saving me a ton of time. And for whatever I do have to manually categorize, I can do very easily either from my computer or their super user-friendly phone app. I've literally tagged and categorized expenses from the pasture with cattle. On top of that, they have the ability to send invoices, a ton of detailed reporting options. You can break out expenses and incomes by enterprise, which allows me to see more accurately individual enterprise profitability and gross margin analysis. If that's something you're interested in, check them out at ambrook.com/ranching returns to try it free for 1 month. Yeah. No, that makes sense. I am curious on the time thing. Like, at this point, with what you own and your management skills and stuff, usually having a doctorate and a vet degree is a fairly high paying job, but that's probably one of your lowest paying jobs at this point as a manager and kind of an owner. Do you see a time where it makes sense to outsource that work and focus more time towards managing, acquiring more, that kind of if that makes sense?
It does. So as far as hiring another veterinarian to work full time and that's definitely the goal. I mean, I think for me, I just love being a veterinarian. Sure. I love seeing patients.
Right.
But it's also fun, like when I go back to my original clinic and see clients, and it's kind of fun because it's just like I'm popping in and out of appointments, but it's not like a normal busy day, like where it's like appointment. So I do really enjoy that. I think long-term goal for me would be to acquire several more clinics, and I just make my rounds. I go to a different clinic every day. I'm making sure it's running the same. All 3 of my clinics run the same. We have the same protocols. We have the same software. We have the same goals. And so any of my employees can actually go to any of my locations. That's and cool.
Right.
Just fall in and know how we make appointments. It's all the same. And so just the staff is different. And so that would be kind of my ultimate goal, I think, is to acquire more, but be more of a manager role and just kind of have fun and see appointments when I want to.
Yeah. That's smart. No, I think that's really smart. Probably, it's one of those things you probably had to do right away. Like if you take on a new clinic, it's probably a headache to switch everything over. But in the long term, having that consistency is going to save you so much time and headache over time. I have one more question on the vet clinic thing before we kind of move into the ranch side and stuff. But so you talked on that second one you purchased. That was more of a startup from scratch, which I would say is a very probably a totally different game than starting something that's got a book of business. It's got some systems and equipment and infrastructure. I mean, talk about that, what all goes into starting something from scratch and how. I think you said you did it because you had more payments and more other things and you wanted a little extra income. In my mind, I'm a super conservative person. And I'm like, that's a huge risk. You're going to start a whole nother business at the same time as you're saying you need more cash flow. I mean, man, but you did it and you made it work apparently. So tell me about.
Well, so when I purchased this, it was just a building.
Yeah.
It actually was a daycare. So but it was just like a big open metal building. And so when I purchased that clinic, I was able to get a loan with some capital so that I could use that money to then build and do that. So, but I was very conservative about the equipment that I put in there. I learned a lot from my first clinic on like what equipment to get, what not to just pay outright for. Facebook Marketplace is a great place to find equipment, surgery table. Yeah. Like I found so much stuff. So I was very under budget with that. And so I was under budget with my first clinic too, which allowed me to have a little cushion to provide for payroll and if anything unexpected came up. And so my goal the first weekend that I was open was I just need to make enough money to pay for the staff and like half of my mortgage. And we definitely did that the first weekend. Like I had appointments the very first weekend that I was open. And so we just kind of grew from that. But one thing that I did is I was like, we really need people to know we're here. So what we did was we started out by having spay and neuter clinics for cats.
Sure.
So discounted. So I think the first weekend that we did it, we had like 40 cats show up.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a lot. It was a long day.
Right.
But what that did was, because we did those like every few weeks, is that the word started to spread. Hey, this urgent
Right.
care is here. She's doing some discount spay and neuters right now. And
Mm-hmm.
so now that we have that, we've actually 2.5 years in, we don't really do as many of those anymore
Mm-hmm.
because we are so busy with urgent care cases
Sure.
on the weekends. So that's kind
Yeah.
of how I started that one. But it was definitely more
Right.
difficult. We're still like, we're 2.5 years in, and we're still just like, we need more clientele, and so,
Mm-hmm.
we went from like $1,500 weekends to now we're like grossing like $10,000 a weekend.
Wow. That's incredible.
So
Yeah.
we still can grow so much from that. And
Yeah.
so that to me is
Yeah.
awesome. We just have to continue getting that word of mouth and let people know we're
Yeah.
there.
And when do you look at it and say like open it 7 days a week, or does that not make sense?
Well, right now it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
So there are 2 other veterinary clinics
Sure.
in Manford where my urgent care is.
Okay.
And I have a great relationship with them. And so they refer so much stuff to us
I
on the
see.
weekends because
Sure.
they're not open.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
so I
Stepping on
really
toes.
don't,
Yeah. Right.
I'm not trying to steal anyone's clients. I want to make
Mm-hmm.
sure they go back to their regular veterinarian during the week. My other 2 clinics, though, they're the only clinics in the town.
Sure.
So Holdenville is actually the only clinic in the county. And then
Mm-hmm.
my Lake area, my 3rd clinic, is the only clinic
Okay.
probably within 15, 20 miles of anything
Sure.
else, maybe
Yeah.
further.
Yeah.
So I like purchasing these established clinics in areas where there's not another clinic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I'm the only game in town,
Right.
but I don't want these communities going without a veterinarian. And so
Yeah.
to me, those are the best clinics to purchase.
That makes sense. Yeah. Totally makes sense. Okay. So moving into kind of the ranch side, and I like how Bethany, who connected us, kind of talked about that it's not impossible to get into ranching. She shared how you guys did that, and you've done it through entrepreneurship. But talk about what that actually looked like on the ranch side of acquiring land, building a business there. That's a fairly high capital intensive business, and probably a little. I don't know if you're making money on these other businesses and you start looking at land as an investment. It's probably a little depressing, almost. But
I know
yeah,
land has actually been done really well
good,
for us. And of
good.
course, flipping our houses.
Yeah.
So we had, that was the biggest thing. When we moved to Oklahoma, we paid $140,000 for our first property with 40 acres,
Mm-hmm.
and we were able to
Wow.
almost triple that.
That's awesome.
And when we sold
Yeah.
it by upgrades and all of that. And then, so when we moved to Holdenville, we had we had the clinic, then we had our house that we lived on, which was like 40 acres. And then we ended up purchasing another, because of the clinic, purchased a little rental property for a veterinarian that had come to work for me so I could provide housing.
Sure.
Well, then that ended up kind of not working out, but now we rent it out. And so that's cash flow every month. That house is actually paid for now.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
then we ended up purchasing property right behind the clinic, which was like around 40 acres. And so again, because of the clinic and having just that cash flow and capital equity to do that. And then I'm rambling on this one a little bit.
No, that's all right. That's the point of long form podcast, long form conversation. Is just take it where it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think it all just kind of happened. Let me go back just a little bit. So when we went to purchase our home for when we moved to our first home in Chandler, when we were in Oklahoma, that part was the most challenging because here we are. We didn't really own anything. We had a couple vehicles, but like that's it. That's all. We didn't come from families that had, I had a grandpa that had property, but like none of that's been given to us. We didn't get any of that.
Right.
So we have literally had to build everything that we have. And so how do you get money for a down payment for a house? And because my husband was working in the oil field, we were able to, honestly, I can't remember how we got the money for that. I think it was a special loan we applied for.
Sure.
But that was a struggle, like even finding a loan for it because we had nothing. But because of that property and building all of that equity that's how we were able to then go out and get a loan for this or get that for that. And actually, one of our bankers, he knows I'm crazy and have crazy ideas.
Yeah.
And so like I would call him up and I'd be like, hey, I'm wanting to open another clinic. This is what I need. What do you think? And he was like, oh yeah, we'll get you a loan for that. I'm like, okay, you can tell me
Yeah.
no.
Yeah,
Like
right. Yeah,
you don't
sounds good.
have to like,
Yeah.
you don't have to say yes to every time I ask you for something. And so, but again, building those relationships
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
having a good banker in your corner that
Mhm.
knows you're going to pay for your stuff
Yes.
whenever,
Yeah.
so they're going to support you.
That's
So that's
awesome.
kind of how
Yeah.
that got started. But
Yeah. Yeah. And then the cattle business, I guess, building the cattle and the ranch and the horse, the ranch side of your businesses and stuff. Where did that fall into place in this whole, I don't know how many years over the course of how many years you from moving to Oklahoma and then buying your first place to where you are today? I don't know what that process, but where did the ranch fall into that?
so the horses have kind of always been there. My husband had a few horses when I met him. He had a older foundation bred mare that he was just, would breed to something every year. But then
Mm-hmm.
once he met me and I was riding cutting horses for a lady and he kind of realized what caliber of horses we could have, he was like, oh, we need to kind of change paths here a little bit and
Mm-hmm.
start. So every year, so we've been married 17 years. And every year we try to, invest in something. And we've just slowly over the years built it to, we've got like we only have like 7 brood mares right now, but we breed those mares every year. And then we also have just other ranch horses that we've raised and kept here. And so every year we sell like 2 or 3 horses, and we have way too many horses right now. I think we have like
Sure.
18 or 19 horses.
Okay. Wow.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a lot.
It seems like it to me, but I'm from row crop country where we use 4-wheelers, so I don't know what's a lot. Maybe that's not a lot. Yeah, no.
I feel like it's a lot.
Sure.
The feed bill is definitely a lot.
Right.
But so I don't know, just over the years, we, breeding horses, and then you're like, well, let's keep this one back for a brood mare.
Sure.
Let's sell this one. And so
Yeah.
really just focusing on bloodlines and, making sure we're raising really great ranch versatility horses. And I'm really proud of my
Mhm.
husband. He's done a really good job with because he trains all of our horses
Yeah.
and then sells them and
Okay.
gives me something to ride. But
Yeah.
as far as the cattle goes, we've kind of been up and down with the cattle business. We have Charolais cattle that I purchased from my grandpa, and
Mm-hmm.
that was after when we purchased our first home. I then, we had 40 acres, so I started purchasing a few heifers from him, and then he gave me my first bull, which was huge because I have an amazing family.
Yeah.
My grandpa passed away several years ago, but they didn't really my family doesn't really like give us stuff. Like we definitely have to work for what we have. And they still have, my dad's taken over helping my grandma with the ranch now, and they have a few cows. They don't have as much anymore, but like my grandpa giving me that bull was kind of a big deal because he didn't do that for anybody.
Yeah.
But he saw what we were trying to do, and so I thought that was awesome that he helped us get that started.
Yeah.
And so we just started breeding, and we had probably a herd of 30-ish cows, pairs, and then we ended up selling some of those though when the market went so high. We needed to pay off some stuff, and so we did that. So our herd's not as big anymore, but we're working on moving that back up. We had some Coriani cattle for a little while, but they were out of the fence more than they were in the fence, and so we kind of got out of that business for a bit. Now we're more focused on we still have a small herd of Charolais, but my husband also has some Wagyu steers that he purchases from some clients of ours, and we actually raise those, feed them out, and then sell the beef, and we've been really successful with that. And so that's kind of the direction we're at right now.
Sure. Okay. So the ranch side of it and stuff too, do you feel, I'm sure I probably know the answer, but how important was the vet clinic and the entrepreneurial side to building an egg and ranch business? Do you feel that you could have done that independent? Like you seem like the type who could have found a way, maybe you could have figured it out. But I mean, how important was that to it?
I feel like, yes, we could have found a way. It would have been a harder way, I feel.
Yeah.
I feel like my husband probably would have had to stay in the oil field a lot longer.
Sure.
In order to financially be able to start building that herd and getting it to where, and purchasing the clinics and things that we have. So but I do think the veterinary clinics and, for those listening, it doesn't have to be a veterinary clinic.
No.
Any business, I feel like, can help give you that financial means to do that. But for us, the veterinary clinics has been an instrumental part in helping us get to where we are right now.
Yeah. No, I think it's been a couple people that I've talked to. One, Ryan Cohn in I don't remember if it's Nebraska or what, but he bought a medical equipment sales business and then expanded that and used that to buy land. And another guy bought a well drilling business. And, that small business, local rural small business purchasing it, that's kind of hot right now. I don't know if you've heard of like Cody Sanchez at all. I feel like if you've ever listened to her.
No, but I feel like I need to.
I'm surprised you haven't, honestly. She's all about buying small businesses and these kinds of businesses and owner financing them and different things like that. And it's very popular right now. And there's a ton of opportunity because there's so many of these small businesses with older generations and kids who don't want to take them over. And so you're right, it doesn't have to be a vet, but there seems like there's a ton of business or opportunity like that. That being said, it was the person with the well drilling business. I think he said he's glad he did it and has gone great for him, but it was the hardest thing he has ever done and ever will do, probably. So I don't know.
I know. Well, now my husband is working on starting up a cedar business now. Okay. That is our next
like cedar synchronization, doing. Like that kind of cedar, or like
no, so like cutting down cedar trees.
Sure,
and making
I see.
Cedar stays.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. That would
not
the veterinary side.
Yeah, I see. I didn't know if he was like doing cedar. AI cedar syncing. Yeah. Okay.
No. Oh gosh. That's way too much of a headache. No, cedar, like tree cedars.
I follow now.
But I see the connection now.
Yeah.
So he is working on clearing land. So what brought that on is because our property that we live on now. So we live on 70 acres and we've got a bunch of lease places that we keep our cattle on, several hundred acres of lease properties. But we live right on the lake. And so we just love where we are. But he's building more fence and he wants to put cedar stays all around it. Well, to just buy cedar stays, they're expensive. And so he was like, this is silly. We just need to have our own business. So I was like, sure, why not?
Yeah. What's one more? Yeah.
My accountant loves it when I call her. I'm like, I'm opening another LLC.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I there's people who are wired that way and just keep going. And I'm curious, I was that way. And then, I still have more ideas than I'll ever have time to do. But I hit a point where for me anyway, I was like burning out, I guess is probably the best way to put it. And I found, at least myself anyway, I can work a ton of hours a day, but the most exhausting thing is the mental exhaustion of having all these different things where like you can work and grind at one thing and you might be physically tired, but you're fine. But it's the mental exhaustion of having all these different things on your mind. And that is where I really started to struggle. Have you found that yet with all of the different things?
I do struggle with mental exhaustion with that, or just like I'll be sitting trying to relax or something and I'm just like constantly just like thinking of different things that we could do to make this better, and that is exhausting for sure. And so I don't know how you shut it off. I try to just like go do other things and shut it off, but it's okay.
You keep going. Yeah, you figure it out. That's kind of how it goes. Right.
Yes. But I think future goals for like ranch wise, my husband wants to own like a bigger spread, obviously a ranch one day. My 6-year-old came to me the other day and he was like, well, Mom, we need to start. And he was going off on like all these different things that we could do and how we could start investing in bigger properties so that we could have our big ranch one day. And he was like, he
I love it.
He has the disease that we do.
Yes, I love it. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so he's like, well, I could build my house on this end of it and, drive the truck and I'm going to have my own truck. And he's got big ideas too. So Who
Love
knows
it.
what he'll do one day.
Right, right. Yeah. Well, this is another conversation I had with one of those people. I think one of the best things that a young entrepreneurial minded person can have is a parent who says, do it, try it. That sounds awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Like, having a parent that said, ooh, I don't know, that's risky. A lot of people fail doing that. Everyone always talks about, like with rental properties anyway, they say, oh, my uncle had one of those and he got the midnight toilet, overflowing toilet calls and the bad tenant who trashed the property. Yeah, those things happen, but that'll shut down an entrepreneurial spirit real quick. So with his already entrepreneurial mindset at 6 and you guys leading the way, I have no doubt he will accomplish great things.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's pretty fun. He is cowboy through and through. So another thing that we did just recently, we had a cowboy camp for it was just 2 days. We did it last week, and we did a cowgirl camp about 10 years ago, I think, at our first place that we lived at, and it was for 5 days. It was all girls. They stayed in a tent for all 5 days. Never saw electronics. And they did not get AC for 5 days. But it was an amazing experience and so much fun for the girls. So I decided to do a cowboy camp this year, and it was 6 and 7-year-old boys.
Wow.
9 of them. I decided that it's easier to wrangle feral cats, than 9 boys. But it was so much fun, and we taught them how to ride, how to rope, how to groom, how to take care of their horses, and
that's cool.
Fish, and it was a great time. So
that's so cool. That is so cool. I love it. Well, kind of changing topics here, and I guess I didn't ask you this specifically, but Bethany with Ambrook connected us. So I assume you use Ambrook, and I'm curious So I'm curious, like, how have you used that specifically with all of the different businesses that you have? That's something, I've tried to figure out how to do better at, is managing my books here over the last couple of years, especially with all the different businesses and different things we've got going on. So I'm curious to hear how you're doing it.
So previously I was using QuickBooks, and I just totally did not love it. And I just got frustrated because you need a system that kind of does it itself, if that makes sense, especially for me. I need to be involved, but I need a system that can do it itself, and I can be able to ask questions. Hey, where am I spending this money, or what's happening here? And I just couldn't get those answers with QuickBooks. And so I was like, it's time to hire a bookkeeper and get some of this relief off of myself. So Facebook really markets and targets really well, because Ambrook kept showing up. I just thought that, and I never even think I said it out loud. So I'm not even sure if Siri heard me. She may have, but I just started getting all these, messages about, or not messages, but on my feed about Ambrook. And so I was like, man, it's geared towards ranchers, farmers. I think this could work for me. And so I set up a time to talk to them. And one, I just loved that I could talk to a person. I am really big about, I want to be able to call someone or text someone if I have a question, or anything. And that's something you can't do with something like QuickBooks. I mean, you can, but you never know who you're going to get. And so that was the best thing that I liked about this, is that I can call, text, or email with my questions. And so I was looking for a bookkeeper. And so what's awesome about Ambrook is that I was able to set up all of my businesses. So all 3 clinics, and they're all separate. And then plus I can have my farm and ranch one separate as well. My husband loves to write checks. And so it's super easy to be able to have him log in there real quick, hey, where'd you write that check to? But keeping up with my finances is so much easier. And they have all been so helpful that I finally know where my money's going. And what's also great is that when you do want to go buy another business or property, all you have to do is click on a button, and it's gives you your profit and loss. Reports, and I can present that to the bank so much easier. And my accountant also loves my reports. They're much easier for her to decipher every month as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, I am with you 100%. Like the confidence of actually knowing, I feel like and maybe you are already probably ahead of me with QuickBooks and stuff, but I was using spreadsheets before, and I was one of those people who kind of just like end of year got everything ready last minute for the tax accountants and stuff. And so that's not an asset then. That's just purely tax prep. There's no asset, but when you actually have everything organized and ahead, you can use it as like a proactive tool to start getting on top of things. Like you're talking about, like when you want to, a new opportunity comes up, you have a little more confident where you're sitting because you have it all available to you immediately. And it's such a cool, I don't know, not just cool. It's just a true asset to you that I never looked at my finances, I feel like, as an asset, and it kind of really can be. I don't know.
Yes,
Yeah.
no, definitely. I was one of those people that did it at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But when I went to purchase my third clinic, I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore. I really need to be more organized. And what's great too is that I can utilize my staff. So they have access, my office manager has access to it for each clinic. And so she's able to categorize things for me.
Okay.
Ambrook was able to set up specific chart of accounts that I use in veterinary medicine. And so we can categorize everything that way. And so they don't have, my staff doesn't have access to my accounts, but they do have access to categorize things for me. And that is so helpful. And I'm not having to do that at the end of the year. But yes, it can definitely work for you if you're keeping up with it, during the year for sure.
Yeah, no, right. And for me anyway, the keeping up with it year now it's made so easy. I can do it from a phone. You probably have your staff doing it. And that was a question I had, because I think they have a service as well where they will actually do that accounting stuff for you, I think. But you're not using that. You're using your team to do it and just kind of use them to help set it up.
I do use my team to help categorize stuff, but I also have someone assigned to me that I've set up within Ambrook that she looks through all of my accounts, make sure everything's adding up correctly. And if there's issues, she will, email me and be like, I actually got an email from her today, and she was like, hey, I have some questions on these accounts. What do we need to do? And so that's been super helpful having that.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, that is awesome. And the diverse, like you said, the farm, do you have multiple accounts, or do you have all of these as enterprise within one account? Your farm and your different clinics and all your different, I don't know, your real estate and stuff like that?
So like with Ambrook?
Yeah.
Yep. So it's all one account, but we have them all set up under different LLCs within that one account. So you can just toggle over to each one.
Yeah.
Pretty easily, because there's all separate like bank checking accounts, savings accounts for each one of them, but you can integrate all of that into one account.
Right. No, that's awesome. Any other thoughts, I guess, on Ambrook or how you've used it or anything before we move on? Or
no, I think they're super great. I've really enjoyed working with them. It's definitely made my life a lot easier.
Yeah, right.
They probably get a little frustrated with me because they'll send me like an email with questions, and it takes me a few days to get back to them. But they're super patient, and
that's awesome.
They're like, it's okay, we understand. You got a lot going on, but they're definitely super helpful.
They deal with ranchers. They're probably pretty used to like slow responses to emails and things like that. I would guess.
I know. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I meant to message you back 3 days ago.
Yeah. No, I'm sure they're very familiar with how that goes. That's totally fine. Awesome. All right, we're going to dive into today's What Are Your Thoughts question, sponsored by Ambrook. Ambrook is the accounting software I use for all of my businesses. If you're interested in learning more, check out ambrook.com. Well, if it's all right with you, and I probably didn't mention, I have kind of a few wrap-up questions I like to ask everybody. And I'm very excited to hear your thoughts on these. And I call them my What Are Your Thoughts questions. They're just whatever comes to mind. So take it however, you think about it. The first one is, what are your thoughts on debt and leverage?
Like having debt and using that for your leverage. Is that kind of what you're asking?
Like how do you, whatever your mind, how do you feel like, how important is it? How do you feel about paying it off? Should you keep it? Is it, some people are like, borrow till you die, and other people are like, it's a tool at the beginning, but pay it off as quick as possible.
Gotcha.
Whatever what's your philosophies around debt and leverage, I guess?
Well, I have a lot of debt. So let me put it this way. I still have student loan debt. I don't worry about it. I pay on it every month. I pay what I can, the minimum amount every month. I'm going to be paying on it for a while. I applied for different grants that actually helped pay like $75,000 of that. I'm going to apply for another grant.
awesome.
So there's ways to pay it off. So I'm not worried about it. I think in my field, so many veterinarians graduate and that's the only thing they can think of is to pay off that debt. I don't worry at all about my school debt.
Yeah.
I don't know if a financial advisor would love that answer, but that's my answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't think debt is a bad thing. I think that, I mean, obviously I have a lot of debt, the biggest thing for me is not having credit card debt. I really try hard to not have that. There was a time with the clinics before I purchased my second clinic, that I just didn't have a lot of cash flow. We weren't as crazy busy as we were during COVID. And so I had a lot of outgoing expense, had to put some money on the card, and that just like ate me up. I hate not being able to just pay for something.
Yeah.
So I don't like that kind of debt, but I also think debt is good to help build your credit.
Yeah.
You know, gosh, I don't even know how much I'm in debt right now with all of our stuff. But because of all of our purchases and rental properties and everything, I mean, it all pays for itself. So
yeah.
I don't think it's a bad thing.
Yeah. And I tend to share the same agreement. That was another one of those unlocks, is the realization that if everything you buy with debt cash flow positive, theoretically you can have infinite amount of debt and it doesn't affect you at all. Or people from a mindset of like, I have to pay my debt out of pocket. There's a limitation. They can only afford so much debt. But if you are buying assets, which sounds like that's everything you've done. So, and then there's the folks that, see as placing the inflation bet and saying, I'd rather pay for it with future dollars, which makes sense too. So, I think that's very wise. Yeah.
Yep.
Makes sense to me. So the next one then is, what are your thoughts on land ownership?
I love owning land. I think for us as ranchers, entrepreneurs, I think owning land is important. I do think it's a wonderful investment. In my opinion, I don't think you'll ever go wrong owning land. I mean, we have land that we purchased several years ago and we've done absolutely nothing with it. It's not making us money.
Really?
But, in the future it might. But it's we just haven't done anything with it yet. But, we can afford it. We pay for it. Eventually it will pay off in the end. Me and my sisters purchased some property in Texas all together. And that's right now it is making us some money because we lease it to some people to run their cattle on it. And so, we're just going to sit on it, and eventually that property, it's in a great location.
Okay. Nice.
In Texas.
Yeah.
And so I just don't worry about it, but we do own that property, and eventually I think that one will definitely pay off. But I don't know. Me and my husband just think owning land property is never a bad idea.
Right. I agree. And I'm curious, not in like stage of life, but when do you feel is the right stage in business and careers and to start buying land? Is it something you should do right as soon as you can squeeze out enough money to make that first payment, you should get it, or wait till you're further down the road in business and other things? Any thoughts on that?
So my thoughts on that is, me and my husband have always, anything we've purchased, we've always felt like it has to be in God's timing, because I don't ever want to put us in a bind. We definitely have taken a lot of risks on things that we've bought, but like, I feel like God's put opportunities in front of us. And when that opportunity came, we could either jump in and do it, or kind of be scared and step back and miss out on that opportunity.
Right.
There's been times where we wanted to purchase a piece of property, and there was just like, the bank was being weird. A different bank that we were using, they were like, well, you can't afford it. You just bought this other property. And it was just a lot of like red flags. And looking back, we were definitely really upset we didn't get that piece of property. But now we're like, oh my gosh, like that's not what we needed right then. So I think for us, when we've purchased anything, especially land, it's been all about God's timing and kind of just trusting in Him that He knows what's best for timing and the situation and why we need it or why we don't need it.
Yeah. I love that. I saw in your bio, I don't remember what it says, something like Christ follower. And I'm curious, how has that played a role? And that's a great example, but any other thoughts on how being a follower of Christ has impacted your life? Because I guess I am a believer that it's a huge impactor in day-to-day life. Absolutely.
100%. I think how I run my clinics, sometimes I feel like being a Christ follower can make people nervous and uncomfortable. I definitely don't sit there and preach to my staff, every day, but I try to be a good
Yeah.
example in
Yeah.
everything that I do. One thing that I strive for at all my clinics is that we're going to work in a healthy environment. And one of those things is I have a no cussing rule. If you cuss, you're fired. And I've actually had to let a couple people go because they weren't following those rules. I've worked at clinics that, they cut people down. They cussed at you for, I got cussed at one time for getting the wrong size glove out for a doctor. And I was
Oh my
like, oh my
goodness.
gosh, like
Yeah.
life's too short to be doing that.
Right. Yeah.
But I want my employees to enjoy being at work and enjoy working together and working in a clean environment. And so, I try to be as Christ-like as I can, and I think that's why me and my husband have been so successful and so blessed, is because we do try to center our lives around Christ. And, we even like my urgent care hours, we don't open till noon on Sundays because we go to early service so that I have plenty of time to go to church and commit to that every week. And then I'm still able to serve my community in the afternoons. And so, and then if my staff wants to go to church, I want to make sure that that opportunity is for them and not force them to have to decide, church or work.
Yeah.
And so,
Right.
but yes, I think having that mindset and that attitude and just making sure that, that it's in God's timing and
Yeah.
He takes care of the rest.
Yeah. I'm curious and I've shared this on the podcast a few times because I've said that I feel like one of my greatest strengths and weaknesses is ambition. And I have, an entrepreneurial business mindset as well. And on one hand, in this world, it's great. And it's allowed opportunities for our family to have wonderful things and to live a wonderful life. But on the other hand, I absolutely feel myself distracted, from what really matters, from my faith, from sometimes my family, because of this ambition and things too. And I'm curious, not to put you on the spot, but is that something you've felt, and how have you worked around that, push and pull of like, I have this desire to do these things, but is that becoming a god and idol in and of itself, if that makes sense?
I do think that has been a struggle for me, and I just have to step back and be like, whoa, okay, maybe I need to just step back and like let this kind of roll for a little bit. And, I think like several months ago, I was like, I'm really focusing too much on, social media and not focusing, I'm worried about, what are we posting? What are we getting out there? Who knows about us? Things like that, instead of, and being on my phone instead of, being centered with my family. And so that, I think that sometimes is a struggle because you're constantly thinking about the business and almost making it an idol. And I definitely don't want to do that. So again, just staying grounded. And I think because me and my husband do this together, I mean, he doesn't work at the clinics with me, which is a good thing.
Sure.
He helps me every once in a while, but he's more of like the maintenance man. He says he's HR.
Nice.
But because we work together and we keep each other grounded and have honest conversations with each other, I think that's what helps us stay focused and Christ-centered.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you indulging those questions that were not on my list of what are your thoughts questions, but
That's okay.
It's something I'm just curious about and trying to, learn from. So I appreciate your perspective. We'll go back to that though. And the next one then is, what are your thoughts on off-ranch investing? Or maybe in your case, the ranch is the out of business I guess investing outside of the business that you're involved in, or diversification of investments.
I don't think you should have tunnel vision. I mean, I think if an opportunity comes up, that's in your wheelhouse, and just like my husband wanting to do the Cedar Stay business, maybe investing in something like that and kind of seeing where it goes. I think stuff like that doesn't scare me as much anymore because if it doesn't really pan out, it's not a big deal. Like the veterinary clinics are obviously the most important, kind of backbone for everything that we do. But I do love looking into other investment opportunities and how can we have some passive income for sure.
Yeah. You probably can't take on a lot more active income opportunities at this point.
No.
Which
I'm maxed out on that for right now.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Well, then this question is the last one I've got for you on these anyways. What are your thoughts around the idea of enough? This is, again, kind of back to what I asked a little bit already. Well, I guess I'll just let you answer it there. Any thoughts around the idea of enough, or is there a point where there is enough?
I feel like right now, like in the broad sense of things. Like we have enough, we're happy. Like I'm not one of those people that I need stuff to make me happy.
Yeah.
We do extra things because it does make us happy. I don't know. I think it's hard as when people have this mindset of just entrepreneurship and not always wanting more, but maybe just always wanting more for ourselves and knowing that I can be bigger than what I am now. And I guess for me, I definitely want to continue to do more because I think that the bigger I get, the more outreach I can make, the more of an impact I can make in this world. And so I don't know that I'll ever just be like, that's enough. That's all I need.
Yeah. 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 I don't think that's wired in the kind of people who are builders and stuff, is to just be done someday when you've had X amount of something, whatever. So
Yeah.
that makes a ton of sense. Well, that's all of those questions that I had, but I did realize I forgot to ask you about your books and writing books. I think that is, first of all, the coolest thing. I had an author on not too long ago as well, who's kind of trying to start, a business of writing and selling books. And I kind of shared too that I used to love reading and always thought it'd be the coolest thing to write a book and just never do it. So I think people that actually go out and do it are like my heroes. I think that's awesome. So talk about like, when you decided I want to write a book, what came after that? I mean,
Yeah. So I was actually a fourth year vet student.
Okay.
And my sister is a graphic designer. She was in school at the time to become a graphic designer, and she needed an end of school project. And so, but at kind of along the same timeline, a bunch of friends had reached out and they're like, hey, Rebekah, my daughter's wanting to go to, she wants to be a veterinarian. What are some good books? She's only like 10 or 11. What are some good books? So I started looking and I couldn't really find a book that I mean, there really weren't a whole lot of books out there. And this was, I've been practicing for like 10 years now. So this is about 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And so I talked to my sister and I was like, hey, I have a project for your school. I think we should write a children's book and it's going to be called Rosie the Pig. And she was like, how'd you come up with that? And I was like, because my niece Abby had come over and our pig Rosie was sick. And so I was teaching her, like she had pneumonia, she had all this stuff going on. And so I was like, that's the theme of the book. And so we'll have like in the middle of the book, a quiz section. So it quizzes the kids on like what tools we use at the clinic. And then at the end of the book, it actually has a Q&A. So it asks a question and, an answer. And so it's very interactive. And so we started working on this project together. It took us about a year to get it from, start to finish. But I think she made an A on her project. But
that's awesome.
Yeah. But so we ended up, I self-published it, self-printed it. And I don't know I need to look at the actual numbers, but I think I've sold around 15 to 20,000 books, maybe more.
Wow. Incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you. I have 5 books out now. I'm working on my 6th one.
Sure.
I'm really looking for someone to publish my books. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Or an investor would be great. What I came to find out with the books is that as a self-published author, especially I'm making these books in a series, so it's 1 out of 6. And so I would, I purchased like 3,000 books of Rosie the Pig, but then I like sold out of them. And then, so you have to purchase more.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, that wasn't as big of a deal, but now post-COVID, everything went up so much that having to purchase those on my own was astronomical.
Sure.
And so I ended up getting with Amplify Publishing. It's still kind of a self-publishing type company. All the costs are on me. So that did lower the cost of printing. However, it's still a lot to maintain all 5 books. And so to get those books, I mean, we're looking at, 1,500 to 2,000 books still costs around, $9,000 to $10,000 to get.
Yeah.
And so having to replenish those and keep those in stock is definitely hard to do on my own. But I take those books into schools and read to kids, and then they can purchase the books there. But the best part about my books is that I always take the animal that I'm reading about. So when I had Rosie the pig, I took a little pig and
like an actual animal to school.
Oh yeah. Oh no, it was
awesome.
a real animal.
I was thinking like a stuffed animal. No, you've got like
no.
Here's a pig
real
in a preschool. Yeah,
yes.
love it.
Pistol the horse, I had a miniature pony that I took with me, and we walked it down hallways of schools. It was awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Maud the cow was a miniature cow. A client of mine let me borrow they raised miniature cows. So the miniature cow, did it go? No, I think my miniature horse went to Colorado. We did a school in Colorado. But yeah, the miniature cow was probably the most fun. Everyone loved that.
Yeah, I bet.
So yeah.
I bet. Yeah, it's probably easiest to just bring a chicken or something, but they love the cows.
Well, I'm terrified of chickens, so I did not write a book about a chicken.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Good. Oh man. Well, that's so cool. Is there anything I didn't ask that you came prepared to talk about, or something that you were thinking we'd discuss and never brought up?
I don't think so. I think we covered quite a bit there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Just two last little wrap-up questions. One I've got is, if there were like 2 or 3 resource recommendations you have for people, those can be books, podcasts, conferences, conventions, anything. Are there a couple of recommendations that you would have?
Ooh, I didn't come prepared for that one.
Sorry about that.
Honestly, I think just reaching out, especially just reaching out to people that have done it before, I think is just such a great resource. So I love it when people ask me questions, because I've been through it and I've definitely done some wrong things and some right things, but at least I can guide you to the right place. But really, I mean, when I first started, so much of this, it was reaching out to people I knew had already purchased a clinic or who had bought some property, and developing those relationships with my banker. And that honestly was my biggest resource, and still is my biggest resource now.
Yeah, love that. I agree. You can't beat people who have had the experience. That's great. Good. Then the last question is, if you're comfortable with it and people want to reach out, learn more about what you do, or buy a book or anything, where would you direct them?
So they can go to my website, drhartfield.com, Dr. DOCTOR, Hartfield, HARTFIELD.com. And they can email me from there. That goes to my personal email. And they can find out a little bit about me. They can purchase books there, but they can also email and ask me any kind of questions from there as well.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. This was incredible. I'm so impressed by what you've done, and I'm excited to someday I'm going to get your now 6-year-old when he takes this to the moon or whatever he's going to do. So
if he was here, he would probably be up here trying to be on this. So I'm on something else that I do. Sorry to add on.
No, this is great.
So I do vet talks on News on 6, which is one of our local stations here in Tulsa.
Okay.
And so we do Zoom, they're usually 5 to 10 minutes once a month. And so he has been featured on that multiple times because they love him. Yeah. And so he's always awesome. I want to be on today. And I'm like, no, we're talking about, something you have no idea about.
Right. So, I love that.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, Dr. Rebekah Hartfield, thank you so much for this. This has been wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Ranching Returns podcast. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to this podcast, and share it with a friend who you think might benefit from what we talk about here. Also, if you want to learn more about what we've got going on or want to reach out, you can find me at ranchingreturns.com or send me an email at ranchingreturns@gmail.com. Thanks so much, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Ranching Returns podcast.